If you all have a black, modern, Vogue looking logo, nothing about you is memorable. And our brains process imagery 60,000 times faster than text. And so utilizing color can be 90% more impactful. I think one of the most impactful things in my success in my career has been the one-on-one connections that I've made. Authenticity wins. Like, no one wants the fluffy person on stage who's like you're looking up at, that's completely unapproachable. I never want to be that person. I want to be someone when if they see me at a bar or a restaurant, they feel comfortable to come up to me and let's have a dialogue.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I gotta ask you a question. Do you feel like something's missing from your business? Do you have questions about what a brand is, what a brand strategy is, the difference between those two? We invited an awesome brand strategist onto the show today. Her name is Kaleigh Wiese, and she's here with us. Hello, Kaleigh.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here with y'all. I am so passionate about small business owners and people who have expertise to share. And so we have a lot to cover. I'm super excited about all the things that we're going to cover today.
Yeah, me too. And if you want to learn more about Kaleigh Wiese, go over to KaleighWiese.com. You can also find an awesome success guide for brand strategy by just typing in successguide.KaleighWiese.com. And you can find the link below as well. Kaleigh, what brought you into brand strategy? How did you get to this place where you're now, I'm asking you these questions about brand?
Yes. Well, I feel like I'm not just your average brand strategist. I think it's become a very trendy term to be a photographer, right? And do brand photos, or to be a copywriter and be someone who helps with brand. I am much broader. So what happened for me was my parents took me out of private school in third grade because I wanted to have my own business. And to be honest, I just fell in love with the idea of people having a passion that they could put unlimitless amounts of time into to get money and be in control of their careers, right? As opposed to a job. So here I am in third grade and my parents are like, okay, we're going to need to equip you to have this life that you're really dreaming about. And for me, it was going to the library and, getting books about starting a business as a kid. So they took me out of school and I ended up finishing my traditional schooling by the time I was 15. And then I started a college education around visual communications and brand strategy. I'm very right brain and left brain. And I found out very quickly how obsessed I am with how we can use strategic creative in terms of copywriting and brand positioning, and how when we go to a grocery store, the colors that businesses use manipulate our minds in a way that's so impactful. And so it kind of became my passion to be able to help small business owners really thrive. And, Fortune 500 companies use the techniques that are out there from a psychology perspective, and small business owners are never given those tools or training. And so it has kind of been my career goal is to help as many small business owners as possible have the tools to make sure that they can work as smarter. I say smart cuts, smarter. So those smart cuts that are helpful in really leveraging your business.
Smart cuts, not shortcuts.
Exactly.
Right on. So I kind of want to back up there for a second. So you got pulled out of school in grade 3. So were you like a kid genius? Like, what was that?
I was not. No, I think I am very thankful for parents who really helped nurture my ideas and whatever that might be. For me, I'm the oldest of 6. And so I've seen it with all my other siblings. We're in very different stages of life and have different passions, right? One of my brothers loved golf. And so he was encouraged to do that, which is a very unconventional career. But for me, I think it was more of like, okay, our life is worth living. And for me, it was like, I can live a life, and school was kind of holding me back, to be honest. So I was like, what do we need to do to get finished so that I can have greater impact? And I'm thankful to have parents who have supported that.
I love that. That's like basically a smart cut. That's a smart cut too, right?
A smart cut. Exactly. I'm obsessed with them.
That's fantastic. So we have like a lifelong brand strategist and an entrepreneur. So you're a course creator and educator online as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have never had a traditional job. I've been self employed my whole entire career. I started helping small business owners, got asked to brand a wedding, which is very interesting. In 2008, launched a company that did event branding and stationery that has been incredibly successful through the years. And through that, what I found is, again, more love for the small business owners because you have creative people like florists and wedding, designers and DJs, and they're incredible at their craft, and they are terrible at showcasing themselves in a way that really resonates with the clients who are wanting to pay them, right? And so, for me, marketing is expensive, ads are expensive, and it's like we just need to have the knowledge to be able to make smart decisions when it comes to positioning our brands. And I like to use the analogy of a lighthouse because I think, we exist as business owners, but if we aren't shining our light appropriately, the people who are looking for us cannot find us. And so my goal through branding and marketing is to help people shine their light so that it resonates with the people that they want to work with at the price point that they want to charge, and really be able to position themselves like professionals and not hobbyists, because many creatives and idea thinkers are more hobbyists because it's a passion rather than operating a really profitable business that they're all capable of having.
Yeah, I love that analogy of a lighthouse, kind of like being a shining beacon in a crowded area, or I guess like a foggy sea. But I guess like my question is like, why do people not have their lighthouse on, or why are people not shining? What's like the core reason there?
Yeah. I mean, I think the main reason is they look around them and they see other people who are successful and they start falling into the trap of what are other people doing, and
Mm.
they lose sight of their own why, who they are, and their uniqueness. When I was young, I had a lot of, if we have any young viewers, being a young entrepreneur has its challenges because you're not taken very seriously. But you also are nimble to move quickly and think differently and transform industries. And I had a mentor who told me, you just have to remember, Kaleigh, no one will ever replace you. And I think that that is a foundational element that everyone needs to know. The experiences that led you to be the educator or the expert or the coach that you are is because of your unique journey. And the more that you can lean into that, the more that you're going to resonate and make incredible money, because people want to pay the expert who has the experience or has the background in whatever it is that you are offering.
Yeah, so that makes total sense. I think I see that a lot with new creators. They haven't quite encapsulated their why yet, and I think with established creators, you're right. A lot of people follow tracks laid by other people, and they lose a little bit of sight in a way.
Yeah. And can I give you a fun fact? So, when a potential customer or client is looking to pursue hiring someone, right? So, let's say they're looking for an expert interior designer and they have been Googling and they have 5 different tabs open on their computer of the people that they respect and that they might want to work with. And what will happen is if you all have a black, modern, Vogue looking logo, nothing about you is memorable. And our brains process imagery 60,000 times faster than text. And
Wow.
so utilizing color can be 90% more impactful. So for you to embrace a color that really resonates with your audience or resonates with how you want to be perceived, they're going to remember that color and the look of your logo far before they remember your business name. And so that is one of the reasons I advocate for finding your own uniqueness and really leaning into how can I stand out, because that's what's going to be memorable.
Wow, that's incredible. So the visual element is much more important, would you say, than
Absolutely.
the
I mean,
text?
if you think of us as, yeah, if you think of us as children, we're handed a picture book and it's like, this is an apple. And that's how we learn, right? Is the visuals are associated with the meaning and the intention and so forth. And so our brains still operate in the exact same way. We remember things much more than we remember what we read. And so I think it's every business's opportunity to position their themselves. And when with a platform like Thinkific, even, it's like your website and the platform that you're using shows, are you safe? Are you trustworthy? Should I give this person money? And so those things feel like a burden, but they're actually what's going to get you over the hump to have that successful business by positioning yourself like the expert that you actually are.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think the struggle a lot of the times is when you are creating something that has a certain feeling, it feels safe, it feels established, it feels professional. It's hard to measure that, but how do you find that there's proof that when you make those kinds of changes to create that feeling, that your business starts growing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the trust alone is kind of undeniable. We can't put a price point on it. Like to create trust for someone, and your brand ultimately is what other people say it is. And so when we can control our own narrative of showing images that, in terms of equality, makes people feel welcome and seen in your business,
Mm.
or if it's the way that you're communicating at their pain points, language, although is maybe a backseat of the visuals, language can be really powerful of your brand when you're able to address, like, I know that you're feeling overwhelmed and overworked and lacking focus, which we all are, I feel like, these days. But, really identifying those things so that someone knows how deep you care. And I think that's what creates conversions, because in our space here in the digital marketing world, it's all about numbers, and it's all about making people feel like they can trust you, because you know that you can be trusted, but it's the pieces that you have to put in place to help make sure that you're checking the box for them to feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think with education, a lot of people, when they get into it, they either have an innate understanding of this or they don't, and that's education is about trust. Like the main thing that you have to convey is trust, and like you said, you can convey that a couple of different ways, like with a comfortable user experience, or you can just show people that you really understand them, and that can build trust too.
Definitely. Both are incredibly impactful for the sales process and journey, into having a lifelong customer who's going to, purchase anything that you put out there.
Yeah, so I understand that like the brand is all of these things. Do you have a definition of what brand is?
So, like I mentioned, I said brand is what anyone else says it is, right? So, if someone is saying they're the coolest and they're most modern and they're just forward thinking and they're doing things differently, like, we're not telling them to think that. It's how we're positioning the brand to influence them in that way. Now, the powerful thing is we do have control over that narrative by the colors that we choose, by the language that we use, by the images. And so, when I'm talking about helping someone build a really powerful brand, it is a toolbox of a lot of tools. It is understanding in a deep level your why, which I'd love to get into that.
Mhm.
We have to remember why we do what we do in that passion, or it will quickly be seen when we are burnt out and our cup is empty. But beyond that, determining, the visual brand, which is your colors and your fonts and the images that you use and how you present the brand. And then you have the copy. And then one of my favorite things to work on is like the client experience. Like every single touch point that you have is a reflection of your brand. And there's so many incredible ways that you can have perceived value that's higher than what you're even charging them, which is going to create raving reviews, right? And so being really intentional is the best thing that you can be in your brand, as opposed to, I need brand imagery, I need to pick a color, I need to pick a logo. If you are not doing it with strategy, to be honest, it's going to be a miss and you may be attracting the wrong clients. And so, that's a recommendation that I would have for those out there who are feeling like something's missing in their business, or they feel like they're not resonating with the community or the people that they want to. Like, go back to your why and make sure that the way that you're communicating is actually resonating with those people, because that self-reflection is going to build a really strong foundation for you to have a sustainable brand that's able to offer many, many things moving forward.
Yeah, I think what you said about being intentional with your brand is incredibly important. And going back to that why, I'm just wondering, so obviously now I know you don't just go out and you pick colors and you hope for the best, whatever you like and whatever you hope is going to work. That's kind of where brand strategy comes into play, because we had some questions about, what is the difference between brand and brand strategy. When it comes to brand strategy, like you said, you start from your why, but how do you do that?
So it's a lot of self-reflection. And I think that's a part that people are like, I don't have time for this. We got to get this product to market. And to be honest, I've had my own experiences where I'm like, people need this, and I build this amazing product and these online courses or whatever it is. And then I launch it and it's crickets because I actually am not addressing the pain points. And my assistant almost says every day, she's like, they don't know what they don't know, right? And so with some of the new things that we're even working on, having a strategic brand means asking the questions of the feelings that the potential clients are having so that you can help show them that you have the solution. So reflecting with your why, if you go on my website or you download the success guide, .kaleighwiese.com, I have what's called a brand archetype. And you've all heard of like your Enneagram and your brain, your personality. This is like the personality for your business. And so you can be one or two of them. But for example, I know that I am at my best working when I am an outlaw, when I'm doing things different, when I'm taking initiative and control, right? So for me, I want to attract people who need my leadership and want to do things different, right? And so when you can identify what really makes you feel like this was a kick-ass day, when you can figure that out and be able to communicate what you do best in a way that resonates with the needs of your client, that is the foundation of a strategic brand. The brand itself, to me, is the end result of the strategy that you're putting in. But having that strategy and knowing your why ultimately is going to help you refine. And I think that you're constantly going to reevaluate your why. You may decide you only want 10 clients right now, and next year you might want 20 clients. Well, things are going to need to change, or vice versa. And I feel like when people get to even that lighthouse phase and they're in major growth mode and they're seeing momentum, when I have someone who's like, what's my next step in my business and in my brand? The next question I ask is like, who are you today? What did you learn from that experience? And where are there areas in your clientele that we can niche down even further? And I think that's a huge problem, is the niching down, because we all feel capable of serving the masses. And I think that more that we can help someone feel like we do something for them specifically. I've never been more profitable the more niche that I have gotten, and neither have my friends who are in this space too. And so really understanding why you're doing it and who you're serving is going to be so incredibly leveraging for a strategic brand.
Yeah, so there's a couple big things there for sure, which was like self-reflection. You got to talk to your clients. You got to understand your clients. You got to review what is going on. You got to find your brand archetype. There's a lot to dig in there too. So I'm wondering if somebody was getting started today, maybe they have a bit of a presence online already. Maybe they have some clientele. What would you say is the very first step?
So I think evaluating, are you happy, right? Like talking about your brand archetype, are you attracting the people who are bringing out the best in you? But I think the next thing that was incredibly challenging for me as I've been scaling is evaluating my value proposition. So your value proposition is what makes you unique. And that is saying, I help people like X do X because I have the experience in X, right? So it's kind of a little Mad Lib style, fill in the blank. And I have that in my success guide, but it's an incredibly like, you're sitting there like, okay, how do I actually answer these questions when I'm only given one line to fill in who those people are? And so I definitely recommend doing something like that to really feel like, okay, here is my focus. And then everything that I do, the copy on my website, do I do a rebrand with my logo? Are my colors going to resonate with the right people? What updates do I need to make on my website? Is it solving the problem that I have in my value proposition? And I think that that truly is your elevator pitch and the foundation and decision maker of everything you do beyond that when it comes to your marketing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think a larger theme here is like evolution for sure, and like
Yeah.
understanding how things iterate. With your own journey, do you mind sharing, how you've iterated in the past? Like, how did you get to this spot? Was it just a win immediately, or?
Yeah. When we were talking off camera before this, it was the conversation of like, you never know who your ideal clients might be. And I am all about relationships and thin threads and serving and casting a really wide net. But my group is very, very small. And so for me, really thinking about where there's opportunity and where there is a need for me to serve has been the best way to go through open doors. I will say I'm not a 5-year planner, which I think, depending on who you're talking to me, all doors open in both ways. Like, it is worth exploring, it's worth testing, but it's also really important when you know to back out of that door and go into the next door, right? So for me, starting a small business, helping, do graphic design, help doing strategy, is only so scalable. And I'm sure many of our listeners feel the same way. Like, I can only serve, and I don't know, a phone call is exhausting. It's very draining what we do sometimes. And so for me, thinking about scaling was all about, okay, how can I do this in a way where I can produce products that help people see how I can solve their problems. And as my rate needed to go up, I was cutting the bottom a lot. And so I think figuring out how do I continue to serve those people, but make sure that every single minute of my day is being paid for. Like, I don't work at Starbucks. Like, I'm here to make money. And I had hired an attorney, and I want to say her retainer was like $5,000, non-negotiable. And I was like, I want to be that. Like, why are we as small business owners not stepping up to respect our time, our expertise? And so that honestly lit a bit of a fire underneath me, where it was like, I only do 5 logos at one time. I only do 3 Squarespace websites at a time. And the rest of my time is going to be spent in development, in producing courses at a $47 price point that people can download, that's reaching the masses and creating the biggest impact for my career. And so I think it's been a constant self-evaluation and refinement, and also trying things out. I've launched bigger courses and they haven't stuck. And so I tried splitting it up and making smaller courses. And it's really giving yourself the leash and the runway to be able to try different things that your audience also wants. For me, I found in the last couple of years, my audience does really, really well with challenges. They're busy event professionals. They can commit to a 3-day challenge once a quarter. And I'm able to plan accordingly in terms of my life, of the chaos of what a challenge is. And then I spin those up into a little mini course that other people can purchase based on the topic. So for me, that resonates really well. And then those people tend to want ongoing support, which was kind of literally, and I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but I'll share with y'all. We were doing a challenge, and we were getting a lot of Q&A and a lot of personal questions. And the team that was helping me with all the tech was like, these people want continued help. Let's just spin up a little membership for a short term, see what happens. And we stayed up all night. Before the end of the 3rd day of the challenge, we had a sales page to get people to transition into a membership, and it hit like wildfire. People wanted it. They needed it. And I had no intentions of having a membership. And so you really have to kind of try and see how you can best serve your community. And I think then you step up and you figure out how to do the tech and the tools and all the chaos that exists with, yourself and maybe a virtual assistant who can step in and help you, who has experience on a platform.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to undercut the importance of delegating and getting people to help you out with things, for sure. But I wanted to focus on the fact that you said, a lot of people were asking for something and you just gave it to them, which sounds simple, but I think a lot of people don't get there. Yeah.
I mean, the hardest part is doing it. Like, the hardest part is the first step, to be honest. I mean, like, legitimately, every single time, that's where you have the pit in your gut where you're like, I'm going to fail, or I'm not good enough, or I've never done this before. And it's like, just take one step forward. Like, no expert today has been an expert forever. Like, they all started where we have had to start to serve the people. And I think that, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Tad Hamilton. It's like a early 2000s love story. Okay. But he's a celebrity and ends up falling in love with, someone in a small town, whatever. And there's a line in that movie that's like, everyone has a Tad Hamilton to them. Right. And I feel like we are all the Tad Hamiltons. Like, we all have people who respect us, if it's friends, if it's family, and maybe you're trying to figure out what sticky terms of content are serving. And I know there's been several times in my career where I've sent an email or a text to friends and family saying, if I had to teach you anything, what would you want to know? And a lot of them, I'm a big cook, and I love cooking and recipes and stuff like that. And sometimes that's the feedback I get. And I'm like, okay, in my future life, I will maybe have a course for recipes and those kind of things. But I think sometimes we're so close to it. Taking a poll and what your current community, let's say you have 50 people on an email list, like ask them what they want, and don't be afraid to really put yourself out there and learn new things. There are so many incredible free resources, much like this, for you to plug into and have an understanding of all of the overwhelming tech and tools that are out there, because we all have ideas, and it's really the hardest part is that first step.
Totally, totally. And I think a lot of people don't want to put themselves out in that way because it might seem unprofessional to ask, like, who am I? Like, why do you follow me? Those kinds of questions, right? But I guess like that's another big part of this is, going back to the start, there's definitely starting with self-reflection, and then there's talking to your audience. Like what's your like tactical advice there? Like, how do you talk to your audience about your brand specifically?
Talking to your audience about brands specifically.
Yeah, you try to get
Let
some
me think about
insight
that
from
for a
them on
second.
where to go with that.
So I feel like if you are trying to determine how to best communicate your brand, it's going to be on a couple of different levels. I think that people don't know all that you offer or what you're bringing to the table. I'll use a good example of some DJs that I work with and mentor with. And, they're DJs, right? Like they are exactly what you would think. They maybe do some MC work. And many of them also offer lighting and ceremony sound and speakers and things that a wedding needs to be successful. And it is so common that they never put on their website that they offer lighting. They don't talk about it on social media. They have a photo booth. No one's paying them to use the photo booth because they're not communicating about it. And so I think we have to remember, when we are not feeling like a service we're offering is sticky, where can we do better in communicating it? And for me, I think I'm known for my brand audits. I'm known for my logo work, but it is not uncommon for someone to say, now, do you do websites? And I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not doing a good job bringing that front of mind. And so I would recommend to anyone out there who's wanting to control their brand, which is what other people say it is, right? And how they're going to refer to you, to make sure that you have maybe 5 pillars of things you want to be known for. And make sure, as you're doing a self-assessment, am I clearly talking about all of these things routinely and taking control of my own narrative, and also shining my own lighthouse in a way that the people looking for the services that I provide even know that I exist. And I think that goes back again to that self-reflection and editing. It's not always an external problem. Most of the time it's an internal problem where we can do better to make sure that we're positioning ourselves for success.
That makes total sense. I love that answer, and I'm just wondering, if I had a small or a medium-sized audience, how would you recommend I do that? Should I contact people one-on-one, or maybe should I survey them, or is there what is your
Yeah.
favorite way?
So I feel like, to be honest, I wish I had a small audience that paid me the type of money I work today. That would be the best. I think one of the most impactful things in my success in my career has been the one-on-one connections that I've made. I continue to do this with a big audience, but when you have a small audience, it sure makes it a lot easier. One of the things that I do, I have a weekly email, and at the bottom of that email, I always ask them to hit reply and share something. This week, we're doing a kind of boundaries are your brand conversation, and I really want to know, what are their boundaries? What are they doing to prevent stress and anxiety? And it opens a dialogue in a way where I can have a conversation with my community. That's a great thing to do if you have a small or a large one. If you have a smaller community, I love getting in Instagram in the DMs, and I love sending voice audio. I love also sending just pure video where I'm like, hey, I saw you posted this. Tell me more about it. The more that you can make yourself human, like, authenticity wins. Like, no one wants the fluffy person on stage who's like you're looking up at, that's completely unapproachable. I never want to be that person. I want to be someone, when if they see me at a bar or a restaurant, they feel comfortable to come up to me and let's have a dialogue. So I would highly encourage, how can you nurture and foster your community in a way that feels seen? There is different segments of my industry, of what I offer, right? So I have my logo clients, I have my ongoing consulting clients, I have my membership. Right now, our membership is pretty small. I have 67 members. It is a little hard to manage knowing and remembering everything about them, but we have been doing Google documents that have notes about, like, they mentioned this, they're struggling with this, they just took their business full time, their husband had back surgery, whatever it might be. And I use my assistants and virtual people to be able to keep those notes so that we can make sure that people feel seen. And I think that the more that you can create and foster a community that feels seen and heard, and they don't feel preached to, but they feel like you are curating content that's going to serve them, is where you're going to be able to grow an entirely massive audience, because that community and those values are going to continue to resonate.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you do that. I love that you take notes on
And
where people
I
are at
and
with
I
their
still
lives.
Yeah, and I still today, in terms of nurturing audience, when I get a new follower on Instagram, I send them a video message right away, and I'll say, thank you so much for the follow. If you're familiar with me or not, how can I help you? Like, let's continue to stay in touch. And I will say, it will be years later and people are talking about the impact that I had in sending a one-on-one message. And so treat each person like someone that you can serve and help. And I think the more that I've been able to lean into the legacy that I want to leave in my career, the more that has put the action behind how am I actually doing that, which is, helped foster a really successful, very loyal, which is very helpful when you have an online offering. That loyalty is really, really important. And we can't just get them that one-time sell. It's an ongoing relationship that we have with these people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've heard from a few different kinds of experiences out there that the more personalized and the more like real it was, the more impactful, the more memorable, which is an incredible value for a brand. And just the more fun and exciting it was. I love that you send videos to everybody. So if you are interested in getting a video from Kaleigh, go to Kaleigh's
Yeah,
Instagram. I'm
follow me
kind
on
of setting you up
Instagram.
here.
Go Kaleigh everywhere. You will
Yeah.
definitely get a video from me. I think, it's interesting thinking about all of this too, because I feel like some of this fostering is like, we feel like it's a waste of time, I guess. But I feel like this is what builds the most committed relationships and connection. And, I've mentioned before, like, being an online marketer is a numbers game on so many levels. Like, once someone told me what my email conversion should be at, like 5 to 7%, and that was good. I'm like, that's good. That's like, okay, give me a realistic goals to shoot for, right? Like, I'm just trying to connect with those 5 to 7%, and those unsubscribers, like, see you later, And I think that really understanding and being realistic, but human, because we all know when we're being sold to, right? Like, we know when we get that spam email from Chase that's saying you need to reset your password, and you're like, something feels off here. For a fun fact, typically the logo is a little skewed, or something feels a little off about it, so our brains kind of tell us that. But it's very easy for us to feel like we're being sold to. So I think the more that you can personalize, the more that you're evaluating, does this email feel canned? Does it feel like it's personal? Is really going to have the greatest impact.
Yeah, it's an interesting. There's an interesting tension there with creators. I think some people want, especially in the education space, because of the idea of trust being so important to the sale of education. I think that a lot of people are really scared of being personal or having a personal brand, and I think maybe in some cases it might not work for people. But I'm interested to know what your thoughts are there. Like, should you have this logo, no face kind of brand feeling, or should it incorporate some kind of personality? What's your opinion?
I mean, I definitely think you can't make connection without having some of who you are. And I'll definitely have friends and family and even clients be like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could put so much out online. And
Hmm.
I'm like, you don't know half of my life. You know what I show you online, right? And so I think people get overwhelmed with oversharing, or not wanting to have their kids online, or, having some elusiveness. And it's like, you're overthinking it. Like, again, when I said those 5 pillars answers. What do you want to be known for? For me, I want to be known as I work everywhere and I do travel a lot, but I love the lake and I love cooking and I'm an expert in what I do because I've been doing this for as long as I have, and I share tips and takeaways every single day with you, right? So they don't know what my personal life is. They don't know those details because I'm choosing what to put out there. So don't feel overwhelmed about building a personal brand. You are still in control of that narrative. And in terms of even like, let's just say safety and other things, like I know better. If I'm traveling, I'm not going to in real time say, this is my hotel I'm staying in. Like I'm going to do, a room tour and post it the next day, right? Like there's things to be just practical about in living a life online. But I do think that without putting yourself out there, it is very hard to connect, right? Like I have a Mini Cooper and I have two dogs. So anyone who has a Mini Cooper is already going to be like, know the gang signs that go with it, or, the dog. So it's like, how old are your dogs? What breed is the dog? Like all of those things, or I love the lake, or I'd love to be on the lake. And those personal elements help me feel more human and approachable and help people put their walls down. So having a personal brand is so important. As your team grows, I also think that you have to have your own identity so that the brand can become its own character. And so depending on whoever's listening and what your goals are, let's say you're a photographer, right? And that photography brand is part of your personal brand now, and you grow an online community and courses, you may want to consider the business of that being a name that is a little faceless. It's more about the people and who you're serving, so that can continue to grow and you can sell it in the future, or you can leverage it in a different way where you are not as attached by your name. And so that's one reason you would want to continue to have a personal brand. So whatever ventures you would get into afterward, you'd be able to leverage, being seen in a big way.
I'm just kind of curious. What are your favorite personal brands out there?
Oh, my favorite personal brands. Oh, that's tricky. I'm loving, just in general, I was having a conversation yesterday with, we're doing some new ads, and I ran across an ad with some smaller businesses. I feel like now that anyone can really source product, right? Or produce a lotion or create earrings. Like we're living in an incredible time to take our ideas and bring them to life. And I think that, when I started 18 years ago, it was all about the big box, right? Like it was like, we. I wanted everyone to think I was a part of the target, whatever it might be. And I think that there's so much value in being who you are as a personal brand. And so the brands that are sending ads, and then this one in particular, it was a juice brand, and she's a young girl, and she's like, I'm the founder, and then she notices that her nails are all chipped up, and she was like, I shouldn't be recording this video because my nails are chipped, right? And I think that authenticity, like I stood there and watched the ad, like I was like, I feel connected to her. She seems like someone like me. And even data would show today 76% of high schoolers want to have their own business, and they are really curious about all of us who are doing things on our own terms. And so I think any brand out there that is bringing that personal, authentic, like I'm a one take wonder. If I stumble on my words, that is how I said it. Like I don't need to record. I don't need to put on a filter to make it look perfect. We're just showing up authentically. And I think there's so much respect that goes into the authenticity that continues to grow in the small business owners around the world.
Yeah, you're definitely right about the amount of people able to get out there and do things. I heard a fun fact the other day about FreshBooks, which is an accounting software, at a YouTube ads kind of summit. FreshBooks said that for the last couple of years, they've seen a 200% increase in people claiming that they're full-time creators on their tax forms, which tells you that there's a lot of people out there doing this part-time on top of that. So in a way, being a creator out there, or being an entrepreneur, is starting to become, I guess, like a little bit commoditized in a way. So standing out is key. And I think you're right about personal connection and one-on-one connections and having that kind of social relationship with your audience. So I'm wondering, you've given one example. You can connect. I mean, not everyone's going to want to send every new follower a video, but are there any other ways out there to connect personally with your audience, in your opinion?
I mean, I think I encourage people all the time, like, how can you stay front of mind to your audience? I think launching programs and courses and memberships is a big part of what we do, but I think the work is actually done when we're not launching. And I think staying front of mind for people, and that can be sending a weekly email newsletter that's asking a question, like I said. I think making people feel seen, so taking polls, getting real time interaction is one of the best ways to create that human connection. And really, I think asking questions more than preaching is the best thing that you can do. And anywhere you are. And I will also say, understand what platforms are just not converting for you. Like, I think there's such a hype of like, I need to be on TikTok, I need to be doing these things. And it's like, we as small business owners are juggling a lot of hats. And I know there's many people listening who have full-time jobs too, who are making this transition. Find out what works for you and where your audience is. And it's okay if you're not on every single platform. And the platforms that you are on, show up routinely. Maybe it's once a week to start. Then you figure out 2 times a week that you can show up. But I think the consistency and just being present in front of mind for people is going to have the largest impact in terms of creating that personalized connection.
Yeah, awesome tips for sure. So I wanted to get into a little segment we like to call hot seat questions, where I might ask
I'm
you
ready.
I'm going to ask you some spicier questions now. And this might not be actually that spicy to a lot of people, but because you're a brand strategist, I think it's a spicy question. I'm going to come at you kind of wild card with this. We didn't talk about this before, but what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is black.
And why?
For a couple different reasons. When I was doing some creative training early on in my career, I had a couple of creatives who were kind of mentors of mine, and we were working on projects together. And they said that when you're surrounded by color, you're incredibly influenced. When you're in a colorless space, your brain has the opportunity to think with clarity. And so that could be having a black background on your computer. I'm obviously wearing black right now. But I think really understanding how much color has influence, I would say most of the time you'll see me in black. But in terms of fashion, actually, I'm kind of a chameleon. Like, I love dressing for whatever it is that I'm doing. So that's part of my personal brand too. You'll see a lot of like, I found this vintage piece and it's like weird and I'm wearing it to this other weird dinner, that kind of thing. But I think black, you can't go wrong with black, but there's also, it's not my primary choice for a brand because you're missing out on those opportunities to be remembered.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love black. A lot of my uniform is black, so that makes sense. Okay, let's get a little bit spicier. You're a brand strategist. I think there's a lot of people out there who struggle with brand. Why would somebody want to pay for a brand strategist? What's the point of that?
So the best example was I was at the gym this morning with a personal trainer, and she was trying to show me what to do with my form, and I was doing it all wrong. And she's like, "That's why you do what you do, and this is why you pay me to do what I do," right? And similar as we started, that literally happened this morning. And as we started, those smart cuts, right? Like, you could learn all of the psychology, you could research. You're going to have self-doubt. You're going to have imposter syndrome. You're not going to have confidence and focus. When you're able to hire an expert who lives and breathes every single day, and I have seen thousands of event brands within the wedding space, I've seen thousands of creatives and their brands, being able to see a brand, I can say, oh, you're likely are charging $5,500 for your service. You're likely missing the mark on this, and this. Like, that's invaluable. And so I think that we also sometimes, hold ourselves back because we think things are too expensive, as opposed to if you think of the resources I'm providing, right? Like, for $47, you can download one of my e-courses and learn all about color. There are opportunities out there to learn for free. And also work with experts in a way that's maybe unconventional, in the same way that people are going to want to hire you for your services.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, it clicked as soon as you said I was seeing my personal trainer, and I knew what you were gonna say about
She
that.
literally, because she's trying to work on her own website and she's been like, I don't know how you do this. And I'm like, well, I just know. Like, I could just put it together because this is what you need on a page and this is what needs to happen. And here I am is like micro move. And she's like, I told you to keep your elbow straight. Like, I'm like, oh, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the big motions and the nuanced small motions for sure when it comes to brand
Yep.
too. Yeah.
So true.
Okay, so a little bit spicier for you. You're also a course creator. You're a membership site owner. I'm just curious to know, like, what was your biggest mistake as a course creator?
My biggest mistake as a course creator was creating a course and communicating about it in a way that did not resonate with the needs of the person. And I think one of the best exercises I've ever done is sitting down and asking, like, what's keeping my clients awake at night? Like, literally, what are the things that they can't even Google because they're so emotionally charged? And my goal is to help them understand that those concerns and feelings and overwhelm can be solved by my courses, because they don't know that they're looking for color theory, right? They don't know that they're looking for font psychology. Like, if you're a nerd about it, like I am, and want to learn, awesome. But for many people, those are two really big keys in their visual brand that if they're missing, they look like, cheap, and they look like they're not worth investing in. And so for me, understanding that if I can help them understand how my results can serve their deepest desires, they don't need to know that I'm offering color theory, right? And so really crafting language that helps them feel seen was a big pivotal moment for me having more success with my courses. For my membership, we're only a couple years in, so I think we're still learning every single day. I think that when you are building a community, then nurturing is really important. Like when I show up every Thursday on a Zoom with 67 people, I want them to feel like I know who that they are and that I'm listening to them. And I think that that helps with retention. It helps them find the small wins. And I want to celebrate that as a community. And so I think with building a membership or a community, the first focus should not even be about content. It should be, how are you fostering a community to help them see micro wins that's going to keep them coming back week after week, and the things that they've been able to help each other out that we're just facilitating is incredibly impactful to be a part of.
Yeah, I love that. We're focusing a lot more on community here at Thinkific because it is the future, not only in online education, but just in online business in general. So I'm happy to hear those tips for sure.
Yeah. And I love having like a success path. I think every membership should have a success path and have it outlined. Like for
Hmm.
me, we have 5 steps, and there is no shame if you are on level 1 or if you're at level 5 in your journey. But as soon as you're at level 5 and you've accomplished what you've needed to in that chapter, I want you to go back to level 1, start over, reassess your why, figure out your people, and it's going to continue to help you level up and meet the goals that you know that you're capable of. You just don't have the focus. And so if anyone is interested in building a community, helping give them focus of where they need to spend their time to reach the results that you have proven or that you're an expert in is going to be the greatest gift that you can provide any of those people within one space.
Yeah, I totally agree. Giving some kind of clear expectations and focus for sure is huge. There's also people who kind of fall off. There's people who lose their motivation. How do you reach out to those people, or do you reach out to those people?
Lose motivation within the community, just to clarify.
Yeah, so there's people out there who will start something. Usually it's a course or a book or even like a membership in something, and then they just kind of ghost or they disappear. And I'm wondering, have you had that happen to you? And if so, how do you deal with those kinds of people?
Yeah. So I think it is, to be honest, retention that is just normal. Like you're going to have fallout. You're going to have, 5% of people who show up every single time early, and that's just their personality.
Yeah.
You have other people who get overwhelmed really, really easily, and they're like, oh, I don't want to show up because it's embarrassing that I haven't been there. So then they talk themselves out of it. Right. And so I think what we have always done is made people feel welcome regardless. And so One of the things that I'm trying to do more routinely is we're keeping track of who's showing up each call. A lot of people, the replay is the way to go, which is awesome. I they're not thinking about me as probably as much as I'm thinking about them, to be honest. So I kind of cut the cord on that. But I do send them an email and just say, hey, I haven't seen you. Like, again, that personal touch of like, last time we talked, this is kind of what you were struggling with. Like, how can I be helpful to you right now? Typically, I'll get an email back right away and it'll bring things front of mind. It'll take away any shame that they have for having not been present. But I also have to give them the freedom that it's okay that you haven't been here, but don't let that stop you from reaching the goals that you have. Maybe right now you're overworked and you need to reassess, and there's no shame in reassessing that goal, and we're going to be right along with you. And so I think giving them the opportunity to change their mind, much like a loved one, it's like, I unconditionally love these members and we're going to be a part of their journey at whatever pace they decide, because I think a lot of it has to do with personality. And life happens. There are births, there's deaths, there's sicknesses, there's successes, there's failures. And being a part of a community is really helping them understand, like, we're on the roller coaster of life together and we know where you're headed and we want to help you get there as fast as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. It's all about connecting personally. We go back to it again, right? It's just that creating those personal connections between you and your people, for sure.
But I'll be frank. I mean, we have a handful of people that I haven't seen in a year that continue to pay every month, and that's by their choice. And we've reached out to him and they're like, we're going to do it when we're ready to do it. Like, I love all the other resources, or in my membership, they get 20% off all of my services. So we'll have someone sign up for a year. We'll do a service for them. And that's the benefit that they got out of the membership. And I think you have to be okay with what it is that you're providing and understanding it's not about you, right? It's like, it's your impact that you have within your community.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And it's a really smart retention play in general, just to have some of the other ways to get value out of you and your brand and
Yeah.
all of your team and all of those things. So it's not just about the calls, it's not just about the courses. So you can really find value in different ways within the membership.
For sure. And I think it evolves too. When you're just starting, you don't have a library of resources, right? But a year in, you might have 52 that you can use as kind of an opportunity to get some people who that's a better fit for them in their pace of life. And so it kind of evolves as you grow in a way that's, we can't do it all. We're small business owners, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
what's going to have the biggest impact for the people we're serving?
Yeah, 100%. Whenever anyone comes up to me and says, Aaron, I'm new to business. I'm new to online business. I'm going to start a membership site. I say, whoa, hold on.
Well, actually, I had a conversation with someone recently who really wants to have a membership themselves, and I'm like, so tell me about who are you talking to right now? And they're like, what do you mean, who am I talking to? I'm like, well, you have to have people who you're fostering. If it's 3 people, if it's 10 people, if it's 25 people, like, start serving those people and it's going to grow. But that does require work, and it requires, I spend hours a week drafting free content on my blog and emailing people and things like that. That's fostering the bigger impact that I have with the community. But you can't forget about how you're serving everyone, not just the people that you're serving. And I think it's helpful. I think one of the mistakes I also felt uneasy about at the beginning, and hearing from some other mentors, is really understanding what to provide for free and what to provide that's paid. And I think when I found the clarity that the free things should be the myths and mistakes and tips and showing them what's possible, and the paid stuff should be what builds the bridge, that gives them the tools, that's the copy paste of the scripts that you can provide them, helps content creation and in serving. If you do have those 3 people to 3,000, you're able to serve people in a way that's creating the most impact.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, for sure. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Kaleigh, for being on this show here with us today. Lots of incredible wisdom and insights into brand and brand strategy. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
I'm so happy, and I'm hopeful that people are thinking about their brand and their brand strategy with a little bit more clarity and focus after listening to our time together. So thank you for letting me be a part of the Thinkific family.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're honored to have you. And if you wanted to take some action with what you've learned from Kaleigh here today, you can go to successguide.kaleighwiese.com. We'll have a link below for sure. And it'll help you grow a profitable and strategic brand. There's lots of really good exercises, a checklist in there. It's incredible. So make sure to go ahead and check that out. Also, check out Kaleigh on Instagram. You can go to GoKaleigh on Instagram to find her there. Thank you so much, Kaleigh, again.
You are so welcome. Till next time.
Till next time. All right, everybody. So if you do enjoy these interviews, you want to see more of them, you know what to do. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe. If you love this episode, go ahead and hit that like button. And let us know down below what your questions are about course creation, being a creator, starting an online business, membership sites, community, anything counts here. So let me know what your questions are down below in the comments. And let us know if you want to speak to anyone individually. Let me know if you want us to speak to anyone specifically about those questions, and we will do our best to get them on the show. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.